Dubinsky with news of a social change across South America. Fewer people are getting married, but people are still having children. Now the region has the world's highest percentage of children born out of wedlock, which is leading to a rise in new types of families. NPR's Lourdes Garcia Navarro explains from Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Maria Mercedes Vitar is a senior human resources manager. She's a tall, willowy mother of two. When we meet, she has 7-month-old Lupita in her arms. She's the product of a short-term relationship Maria had with a coworker. Her other daughter, 3-year-old Azul, is spending the day with her father, Maria's former boyfriend, with whom she had a 5-year relationship. So, 2 children, 2 different fathers, Maria currently unattached, and perfectly fine about it. I really like Lupita's dad, she tells me, but we weren't in love. Lupita was a surprise. It never even occurred to me to have a formal relationship. He lives in his house and I live in mine, she says. And she adds emphatically, it was her choice. Things have really changed here, she says. Today, we women are a lot freer. We decide what we like and what we don't like. We work, we're independent, and that gives us a lot of strength. We can do it alone if we have to, she says. Maria says both fathers are financially and personally involved with their respective kids. I come from a traditional family, she says. My parents are still married. I didn't expect this life. At the apartment where I meet Maria are 2 of her close friends. They all vacation together and they hang out all the time. Maria explains they're part of her extended family too. Paula Fiorita, a photographer, cohabits with the father of Lucio, age 3, so also not married. Paula says for her having a kid was far more important than the ritual of getting married, which she sees as just paperwork. She says there are no perfect families anymore. I think you create the family for your child. I don't think my son's family is just us and his grandparents, but we are all aunts and cousins, even if we're not biologically related, she says. This new societal upheaval, where the traditional definition of a family has given way to new interpretations in Latin America, has happened in less than a generation in Argentina. And it's happening at all socioeconomic levels. Educated, middle-class women are now the growing group of those choosing to have kids alone or in an informal union. Maria Esther de Palma is the president of the Argentine Society for Family Therapy. We meet at a coffee shop. Things have changed so radically that now, she says, there's a huge diversity that is deemed acceptable, and it's valued. You don't have to get married like before to have a place in society, she says. Part of the explanation for those shifts were the onerous marriage laws here. Until 2012 in Argentina, you needed to wait a lengthy period for a divorce and give cause, and there were stiff financial penalties for breaking up. Instead of keeping people together, though, it made the younger generation not want to get married at all. Barbara Schmidt is also a psychologist who has studied the issue. The model for the younger generation is to place importance on the content of the relationship and not the form it takes, she says. Which isn't to say it's easy to be a single mother or an unmarried one. Back at the apartment, Maria Mercedes Vitar says, though, that's not the point. She says there are a lot less value judgments about the choices she and other women have made in Argentina. We are the families of the future, she says. Or actually, she says, reconsidering, the families of today. Lourdes Garcia Navarro, NPR News, Buenos Aires.
This is the other end of this single mother issue that I've been going over for, say, the last couple of weeks. I really hate going down these paths because sometimes it's like a rabbit hole when you actually uncover something like this and you keep pulling a thread and the thread gets longer and longer and longer and longer and you keep pulling, the more it starts to unravel. And now I know why that little chart only went up to year 2014. And why it's so difficult to actually find an updated chart, even though it's, 5-6 years later, on single motherhood, or not single motherhood, but actually born out of wedlock. Because there is a difference the way you rate them. Single motherhood doesn't just mean born out of wedlock. Single motherhood means a divorce, death, all that kind of stuff where the other parent's not there. But since we're just talking about children born out of wedlock, we're just going to use that term. All right, this is really funny. The clip you just heard was from NPR. They're talking about the babies born out of wedlock or the single mother rate in Latin America. and how hidden it was, because if you don't look, you never know. Especially United States, if you actually don't look and you don't pay attention, then we would assume that black women are the worst on the planet. And like I said, I will never defend black female fuckery ever. Okay, it is what it is. We have a long, long, long history about the ills that the black women have basically wrought on their society in this country. So we're not even ducking that. But I want to, I was just talking to Roger Report last night, and that getting black people to focus on something else outside of their navel is very difficult. And to even get black people to look around the world and see that there's a problem, and they'll actually see, yeah, there's a problem, but it's always a but. It's always a but. So I think we're so focused on the black community and our issues, our long-standing issues, that we never bring in other factors. We think we're so insular that we are this bubble society that doesn't get affected by anything around us. By anything around us, there's no factor that makes any sense except black people are fucked up. But anyway, I don't want to go on to a 30-minute rant before I read this article. But I know why they don't publish this a lot. Okay, this is from Colombia Reports, something I found. And this is actually March 12, 2016. I'm going to have to find an updated version of this to see how true this is or whether this is just a blip. It said 84% of Colombia's children are born out of wedlock. It's by Stephen Gill, March 12, 2016 in Colombia Reports. 84% of Colombia's children were born outside of marriage, a record in Latin America, according to a global study. This report, prepared by the Child's Trends and Social Trends Institute, gathered information from 49 countries. The document, compiled with 8 academic partners such as universities, institutes around the world, including Sabana University in Colombia's capital, Bogota, addresses 16 indicators and focuses on 4 areas: family structure, family socioeconomic aspect, family processes, and family culture. Regarding the family structure, it points out that most children in the world live in households with 2 parents. However, in South America, more than half of children are born to single mothers. Colombia in particular reported the highest rate in the region with 84%. In Latin America, the figures are very even, with some exceptions such as Argentina, which records 13% of women who have children without being married. Europe has a percentage of 57% on average. With 27%, Colombia also has the highest rate of children living with only 1 parent, which means 3 out of 10 children live with either their mother or father. In relation to the number of children who do not live with either parent, the country with 11% also occupies the first places in Latin America, surpassed globally only by Uganda, 20%, Tanzania, 17%, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The study revealed that 6 out of 10 children living with both parents live in large families with the presence of grandparents, uncles, and cousins, generating better chances of well-being in addition to obtaining stronger cultural and social values. The studies indicate that the best thing for a child is growth with both parents, says Juan Camilla Diaz, research professor at the Institute of Family of Sabana University. He adds that for a child to live with an extended family can bring benefits in household welfare and a transmission of values, but he also outlines the risk. If there is no proper organization and definition of roles, there may be domestic violence, he explains. Analyzing indicators of marriage and free unions, for example, Colombia, with figures from 2010, stands out. Among the countries included in the report, the country with the highest percentage of adults of reproductive age, 18 to 49 years, cohabitating, 35%, and the lowest, 20% married in the same population. We cannot fall into extremes, because if a misreading of reality is done and that leads to the designing public policies, it may be done incorrectly, says Diaz. He explains that while 20% of Colombians of reproductive age are married, 33% are single, 30% are cohabitating, 50% are separated, 2% are widowed. Asia, 60%, Middle East, 64% are the regions with the highest percentages of marriage, while Central and South America rates are below 35%. That is fascinating. Now, Sweden also has a model where the parents might be cohabitating but not married. Now, I've reviewed it, and I don't think there's any long-term studies of whether these parents stay together, until the children are grown, even though they're just cohabitating without the license of marriage. Same thing, I would ascertain that it's probably going to go on Colombia, where we'll see if cohabitating parents stay together rather than split apart. But it seems to be a millennial thing where millennials don't believe in the sanctity of marriage or the institution of marriage. But it's a trend that seems to be worldwide, because it also goes on in Asia and even the Middle East, even though it's not as widespread, but you can see it trending upward. The other difference is that the women do not have babies outside the sanctity of marriage in those countries because the penalties are so harsh. But I'm wondering how long will it be before they change, or if there's a lag, because Asia didn't really start to develop until later, till like the 50s and 60s, until they actually started to shift. So it may be that Latin America is a little bit ahead of the curve because they're so associated with the West. But I did not know Colombia's out of wedlock birth rate was 84%. That is staggering. That is the highest that I've ever heard of. I think that is the highest in the world, which actually blows what black women do in the United States away. In fact, the black women in the United States was actually tailing down, because even in the 2014 stats, they were at like below 70%. So even though do believe they're probably less, because Colombia's a smaller country, even though I think that there's probably less women in Colombia. We'll see. I have to go ahead and check that out. I think there's less women in Colombia than there are black women in the United States. But even so, it's a sizable number. And the percentages are just kind of blow my mind. But if you look at Colombia's population pyramid, it is stable. Now, it'd be interesting to see how and why they handle this so differently, and what happened over the intervening 20 years to where we actually see this shift with the millennials and them not marrying, and how the government actually adjusts to it. Because these are Latino Catholic countries that really believe in having children, not being on birth control, and lack of abortion. Now, I heard whispers of feminism rising in these Latinx countries. So I'm wondering if the environment is shifting, because the Chinese have come into Colombia and other places like that to try to modernizing it and putting in things like, we have United States Walmarts, McDonald's, or whatever it is, and start modernizing, so we're almost like harmonizing the whole world. I'm just wondering if, Quigley said, if you change the environment, you change the culture. I'm wondering if it's obvious this shift is worldwide. And even though it's expressed a little differently worldwide, but you can see it. Like I said before, I always thought black people were the canaries in the coal mine. Or whatever's going to happen in the West, you will probably see its ill effects, not its good effects, but its ill effects in black people first. And maybe the black women are the canaries in the coal mine, and where black women go, there go the rest of the world. Really interesting to see exactly how this stuff is expressed and why certain countries make certain decisions about marriage, family formation, social services, because these children and women need to be supported in some kind of way. How do they get investment from the father, if they do at all, or is it handled differently? It's very, very interesting. Is this to keep the population stable, or is it just something that happens? Is it these ideas are spread and the women are just refusing to get married and have babies? What do you tell a woman she can't have a baby outside the bounds of marriage? And do you put all these women and children into the street? And the family structure, how do the families feel about all these women having babies out of wedlock? Because unlike in Korea, unlike in Japan, unlike in Greece, where it's strictly frowned upon, and the out of wedlock birth rates are so low, it's obviously had to be more permissive in a country like Colombia, and a country like Chile, and a country like Mexico, which believes in marriage, which believes in cohabitation, which believes in machismo, or the paternal aspects, or the patriarchal aspects of family formation. Because when they come here, it's almost where they insist on the two parties being married. But like I said, maybe it has changed, and maybe that is the reason that maybe Latinos and black men are getting together, because if this shift is happening, and this shift in mindset of Latino women are becoming similar to Americans, then obviously black men are probably the men that are probably most used to it, which probably means why black men are being garnered, actually sought after in countries like this. Fascinating, very fascinating. Fascinating to actually look at this kind of stuff. So I'm gonna look forward to actually delving into this a little bit more, because my curiosity is piqued, and you guys are learning as I'm learning. So you guys are looking over my shoulder as I find out new things about this. It's fascinating work, and there's about, I would say, a good 300 pages of papers I probably need to read through, that I am not looking forward to reading through. Trust and believe. I'm not even interested in going through the load that I already have that's waiting for me, much less something new. But somewhere along the line, I'm going to have to go ahead and squeeze this in. Probably going to have to stay off some panels and start running my mouth and actually start doing the work. But anyway, I've run my mouth long enough. With that, this is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one.